Post Malone, the global music sensation known for blending hip hop and rock in his hits, isn't just famous for his unique fashion and bold tattoos. He also experienced a mysterious phenomenon during his nationwide tour. One night, as the world around him grew quiet, he and his crew stopped at an old, secluded hotel deep in the forest, far from the city lights. Exhausted from a long day, everyone quickly went to rest. The next day, while strolling through an ancient marketplace, Post Malone's eyes were drawn to a peculiar ring among the antique treasures of an elderly vendor. The seller smiled knowingly and said, "You want this ring, don't you? But it's no ordinary piece." The cryptic words piqued his curiosity, and he couldn't resist. When he slipped the ring onto his finger, it fit perfectly, almost as if it had been made just for him. That night, back at the hotel, something felt off. Shadows twisted unnaturally, and a chilling sense of danger loomed. His dreams turned bizarre, and a strange unease settled over him. It was as if the ring was affecting him in ways he couldn't explain. Then, one night, he was jolted awake by eerie noises. Sitting up in bed, his vision hazy in the darkness, he noticed something terrifying. His tattoos were glowing. A strange energy pulsed through them, as if something unseen was controlling them. The ring burned hot against his skin, and a powerful, ominous force surged through his body. He tried to yank it off, but it wouldn't budge. Each pull sent waves of pain through him, as though the ring was binding him to another realm, a realm of darkness, where eerie figures lurked, waiting for their chance to strike. A paralyzing chill spread through his body, and outside the window, shadowy figures seemed to be watching his every move. The next morning, when he woke up, his memories of the night before were fragmented, but the lingering cold in his bones was undeniable. He knew that if he didn't do something about the ring, things would only get worse. Determined, he sought out the old vendor who had sold it to him. This time, the man's expression was grim, no longer welcoming. His voice was low and heavy. "You can't take it off," he said. "That ring belongs to the forces of darkness. It is not to be taken lightly. Whoever wears it must face trials beyond imagination." Fear gripped him once again. Post Malone decided to return to the hotel, hoping to rest and process everything that had happened. But as night fell, he was once again pulled into a strange dream, this time clearer than ever. He found himself standing before a pitch-black lake, its surface like a mirror reflecting his image. But the atmosphere was heavy, suffocating, wrapped in an eerie darkness. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the water. It was a man, but not just anyone. It was him. Yet something was off. The reflection's eyes burned with a sinister red glow, and a chilling smirk spread across its face. "You cannot escape me." The voice echoed from the water, cold, commanding. "I am your deepest fear. You cannot run." His heart pounded wildly, his legs trembling beneath him. This was no ordinary nightmare. This was his first true test, confronting the fear buried deep within his soul. At that moment, it hit him. Despite the millions of fans who adored him, his greatest fear had always been loneliness. Fame hadn't filled the emptiness inside him. He felt like a wanderer, disconnected, forever searching for a sense of peace he could never find. There was no running now. He had to face himself. He had to accept the fears he had always tried to bury. Then, suddenly, a powerful light burst forth, tearing through the darkness. A weight lifted from his shoulders, and for the first time, he felt free. Looking back at the water, the eerie reflection was gone. It was just him, no fear, no loneliness. But this was far from over. The next morning, Post Malone woke up, but something still felt off. It was as if he hadn't fully escaped the dream. He could feel it. The ring was no longer just an object. It had become a part of him. A dark force creeping into his mind, tightening its grip with every attempt to remove it. The harder he tried, the stronger it clung, an invisible power refusing to let go. Hoping the quiet streets would help clear his mind, Post Malone wandered through the ancient town. But no matter where he went, the unsettling feeling of being watched never left him. As he stepped into a deserted alley, the air grew heavy. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, at first just vague shapes, but then they took form. Spirits, creatures from another dimension. Their glowing eyes burned with hatred. A chilling voice echoed from the darkness. "You will never escape us." These weren't random apparitions. They were the lost souls of those who had worn the ring before him, trapped, angry, seeking revenge. This was his second trial. No longer an internal battle, but a confrontation with the supernatural forces the ring had awakened. Then he remembered the old vendor's words, "Every trial comes at a price." Taking a deep breath, he did the only thing he knew best. He sang. His voice filled the alley, raw and filled with emotion. His melodies carried sorrow, longing, and a glimmer of hope. It was a song not just for himself, but for them. A plea for forgiveness, a release for the trapped souls. The spirits hesitated, their glowing eyes flickering. They turned to one another, uncertainty replacing their fury. Slowly, their anger unraveled. A powerful light broke through the alley, washing over them. One by one they faded, freed at last from the ring's curse. And for the first time in days, the air around him felt lighter. But he knew this was far from over. As everything settled, Post Malone felt a massive weight lift from his shoulders. The second trial was over, but he knew the final one would be the hardest yet. Though he had freed the lost souls, the ring remained, waiting. He realized that this last test wasn't just about facing supernatural forces. It was about confronting the last of his fears. On a moonless night, he stood before an ancient temple, hidden deep in the forest where no light could reach. He knew this was the final destination, but the chilling air and the ominous presence of the ring made his heart pound. The ring on his finger pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. Stepping inside, a familiar voice echoed from the darkness. "You have arrived. The final test awaits. But before you proceed, you must choose. Free yourself and give up everything, or keep the ring and endure the curse forever. If you hold on, you will be trapped for eternity. If you let go, you will forget everything, even those who love you." It was an impossible choice. Keeping the ring meant endless suffering. Letting go meant losing his past, his memories, his love. It felt as though the entire world rested on his shoulders. But in the end, he took a deep breath and made his decision. He stepped forward toward the stone altar. With a firm motion, he pulled the ring from his finger and placed it down. Instantly, a brilliant light erupted, flooding the temple. "You have chosen. You are free." As the light faded, a strange, overwhelming sense of relief washed over him. The weight of the ring was gone. The unseen forces that haunted him had vanished. For the first time, he felt truly free, reborn. Walking outside, he was met with the golden glow of the rising sun filtering through the trees. The warmth touched his face, filling him with a peace he had never known. He turned back one last time, gazing at the temple where it all began, then stepped forward, leaving the ring and its memories behind. He was no longer bound by it, but he was not the same man he had been before. He had changed, and that change had opened the door to a new life, one he truly deserved. Returning to his music, every note he sang carried a newfound hope. Music was no longer just an escape. It was a bridge, connecting him to the world in a way he had never felt before. He understood now. Trials weren't meant to break him. They were meant to shape him, to help him grow. The ring was gone. But the journey, the struggle, and the liberation it brought him would always remain a part of his story. They made him stronger, wiser, In the end, Post Malone found peace, no longer haunted by his past, no longer afraid. True freedom, that was the greatest reward of all.